Right, welcome back, and this is a special coverage to the events that took place today. And this morning, the President has inspected the military academy, or this dawn, during which he praised the efforts exerted by the military academy in offering huge training to the students, and also praised the students for their work, their hard work, and expressed confidence in their work. The President also addressed the students in a way to raise the awareness towards different aspects that are occurring regionally and internationally, and particularly in Egypt. And the President spoke about a number of crises, mainly the world economic crisis and its impact on Egypt and how Egypt is dealing with it. He also spoke about the constant political or policies of Egypt, and he spoke about the or our production of the natural gas and how we are dealing with several domestic problems that are facing Egypt. And to highlight what the President spoke about, or reading into the President's statements to the students of the military academy during his inspection tour, we have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And we've seen today the President's inspection tour to the military academy, and we followed up with some of the statements addressing the student. Reading into the President's statements, let us take it or divide what he spoke about in several axes, mainly the world economic crisis and, of course, the developing of the situation worldwide, which definitely has its own impact on Egypt. You read into what the President said.
Yes, I am so proud of our army. It has a history of 2,000 years before Christ. It went everywhere. It went from Far East up till Mexico. Our army went there. Our army went to Greece. Our army went to Italy, to Cyprus, everywhere. And we are in the middle of many things. We are in the middle of Africa, Europe, and Asia. We are in the middle of the Arab world. So that's why if we are studying the real strength of any country, one of them is its armed forces. And we have, thank God, the largest armed forces in the Arab world and in Africa. So, as our President once said, it is in minutes when we can cover any problem in any place in the Arab world. And, of course, we are up to it. That's why we are proud of our army. We are telling this to our young generation who will become immediately leaders in this army. How are the responsibilities of Egypt towards its Arab countries and even Africa? Remember that we have some forces in Africa previously and now, and always our army is ready to participate in any peace process in any place in the world.
Your Excellency,
yes.
Your Excellency, the President here addressed the world economic crisis and its impact on Egypt. And how is Egypt dealing with this economic crisis? He spoke about that we need, despite our expansion in the agricultural areas, that we need to import a number of strategic goods. How do you view how the economic crisis reflected on Egypt? How do you view how Egypt is dealing with the different crises it has passed by?
shortly at the end of the situation, I think that we are lucky. We are lucky, thanks to God, because always God gives us what we deserve. Our discoveries of gas and oil in the East Mediterranean in front of our shores. But when the whole world was suffering from the corona epidemic and later of the war in Ukraine, of course it reflects very bad on the world economy. That most of the economy of the countries of the world is diminishing. China is diminishing. The rate of growth is minus in Germany, in Europe, in the America. America is the most indebted country in the whole world. In Egypt, it is sort of a specific case. I think because also we started a courageous decision when we started our economic reform since 2016. This made us face what the developments came from this crisis in the world in a relatively good stance. That Egypt, among very few number of countries, which will continue growing positively. This is good news, but not good enough because, of course, we want to our growth to reach 8% to cover the challenge of the birth rate. We gave birth in the last 10, 12 years as much as two countries in the size of Greece. This is a big challenge, and we have to feed all of them, to teach them, to give them health care, to give them housing, and so on. So, thank God that we are in a very good position in comparison with the whole world, but not good enough for our aims and for our challenges, which we hope that we shall succeed very soon to make it much easier for all of us. Thank God, most of the Egyptian people are living in sort of relatively good standards of living, but still we have poverty. Still we have to help the needy classes in our country, and this is what exactly the government is doing by giving education, by giving health care, housing, and not far from you, what happened in Maspero area. I am proud of this personally because I am always seeing what is happening in Maspero, in Al Asmarat, in many other places. New cities are being built lately, and we are covering almost every interest for the layman in Egypt. But we need to double this. We need to double our sort of attracting direct investment, whether from Egyptians living abroad or Arabs or even foreigners.
Your Excellency, here the President addressed our need to provide foreign currency, and he spoke about that despite our expansion in the agricultural area, we still need to import strategic commodities or goods during the current crisis. The issue of providing foreign currency and definitely that has reflected on Egypt on different scales. How Egypt is dealing with the situation in order to balance the needs and aspirations of people, and at the same time be able to provide the basic needs of the people despite the economic crisis?
It's not only in Egypt. I always say that in the Arab world we have a food gap. We are not producing all our food, and we have a gap of $55 billion of imports more than we are exporting to the whole world. That's why I am asking to expand our agriculture area, whether in a country in the size of Sudan, where not every place is well cultivated. In Iraq, they have good chances. Syria, Morocco, Egypt, we are all doing this. And thank God that Egypt is relatively in a better situation now by going to the new lands, whether in Sinai, whether in Upper Egypt, whether in the western coast of Egypt, and we are trying to produce more and more of our needs, especially the wheat. Although I always stress the point that the wheat is not the best thing we can cultivate. It costs a lot and it needs a lot of water. So it is much more cheaper than we import it, and keep our land to produce flowers, to produce potatoes, to produce fruits and vegetables, because we can sell it to Europe, to the Gulf states, and we gain a lot of this. Then we can get our wheat from wherever we need. And I want to explain one more point, that because of the Ukraine crisis, some people were worried that the supply of wheat is not enough. No, it is enough and much more than we need. And in my whole life, more than half a century now in the Foreign Office, I know that we are in a very good position in order to bring our needs of wheat and our supply of food. I am not worried at all about this. But as you well said, we have a shortage of foreign currency, namely the dollar, to import, because we are exporting much less than we are importing. This is a big burden. We have to face it. We have to produce more. We have to export more. Then we can say that we have a so balanced situation concerning the demand and the supply of dollar in our market.
Your Excellency, here, the President has, before, of course, has been speaking about lessening the gap between our imports and our exports. And he even spoke about our ability to be able to fabricate or to make some of the spare parts or materials that we really need in the production. Mm-hmm. How far do we need to do this at this upcoming stage, and how far do we really need to produce some of our components or the components of production to help save foreign currency plus increase our exportation?
Very good, but I want to explain very important point, that what we are talking about, you and me now, is a deficit in the balance of trade. Commodities vis-a-vis commodities. Here we have a deficit because we export less than we import. But we are a country which more than 47% of our production is services. We export and produce services, namely tourism, Suez Canal, Egyptians living abroad. All these sources of foreign currency are covering our needs, and our balance of payment, not the balance of trade, is bringing us surplus. But the surplus is not enough for all our needs. We have a reserve at the Central Bank of Egypt, more than $35 billion, but it covers something like 7-8 months of our commodity needs. So, as you rightly said, now we need to produce more, to industrialize our country, to produce more and more industrial products, even also in agriculture, we are doing our best in order to produce our food. From my very humble place, I realize that Egypt is doing its duty in all sectors, whether it is industry, agriculture, housing, education, name it. So, but we need to double our efforts. We need to have a sort of self-confidence and stop blaming ourselves because we are much better than we think.
Another point the President spoke about was our production to the natural gas. And it's not just the extraction of the natural gas, but also the stations, the electric stations or the electricity stations that were constructed during the past period. How far did we deal?
This is one very important sector we need to stress and to explain it to the people, because we are aiming at making Egypt a producer and exporter of energy, whether it is oil, gas, or electricity. And now we have the huge project in the Arab world, which is connecting the electric net from Baghdad in the far east up till Casablanca in the far west, from Alexandria in the north up till Tanzania and Julius Nyerere Dam. We hope that our brothers in Ethiopia will listen to us. We shall bring them a lot of results of exporting electricity. And thank God that the European Union encouraged us to do that. And in this moment, we are establishing electric line from Egypt to Greece, to Cyprus, and then to Europe. Not many people know that Beirut and Damascus are getting their electricity from Egypt. So the future also in this sector, which is energy, hope to continue this, hope to bring some very good results for the Egyptian economy. You mentioned the gas, and we are importing gas, by the way, importing gas in the sort of gas, liquidating it in Damietta and Rashid, and export it again to Europe with a very much value-added product. And we are doing this in a very good manner. So still we are in the beginning, and I hope in the energy sector we are doing our best. One more remark, that people are asking us to slow the speed. Slow the speed costs us tremendously. I was in Germany when we were going to buy the nuclear reactor for $2.3 billion. We stopped this because of the Chernobyl accident, and now instead of paying $2.3 billion, we are paying to the Russians $29 billion, more than 12 times the cost of the 80s. So I am not with slowing the speed. On the contrary, I want to do all our best in order to reach the goals as soon as we can.
Yeah, here we were also speaking about, or the President here spoke about our production of the natural gas, but also in order to be able to extract or excavate for the natural gas and for new wells, we started with infrastructure, and infrastructure means a network, a huge network of power stations that the country has carried out with in order to be able to supply people with electricity. How far did that give us, of course, this plus the natural gas extraction? How did this give us a kind of life breath to endure the what we are going through?
It is a good addition to our national income, and we are doing it quite good. Hope that we have the resources in order to build all what we need to manage our gas area by pipes and by the reactors and many things like that. And I think we are doing good. May I tell you a secret? The last time I was chairing the Egyptian side on the joint committee between Egypt and Europe concerning energy, the European side told us in the second session that they are very happy with the performance of Egypt in this sector of energy and this sort of sector, because Egypt is doing the utmost it can do. This is good news, and I think it deserves to be known by our audience.
Here we have to recall, sir, during the past few days, we've seen the first station for the emission of ships with hydrogen, with green hydrogen, and this is a first step towards Egypt's going green. Also, during the past the past few years, we've been working on some of the renewable energy, wind and solar, and all these stations. How do you view that? How this reflected on Egypt?
It's a very good addition to our product. Also, I have to mention here the new project of the Suez Canal zone, where we shall supply the crossing ships in Suez Canal with all it needs, whether it is fuel, whether it is food, whether we can man it, whatever problems with any ship. So Suez Canal zone will also becoming a very productive area of Egypt, and this will add a lot to our economy, inshallah.
Finally, here, sir, Your Excellency, the President spoke about the Egyptian constant diplomacy and policy. And one of the bases of our policy and diplomacy is the non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries. How far is such a base requested for a goodwill of mutual relation or relations with the world, and how Egypt has carried out with such a base or a cornerstone of its policies during the past period?
This is a very important point, and it needs a full session to explain it. But let me brief you that our foreign policy, as I said, it started thousands of years before Christ. Our foreign policy was always wise and respected by all our partners. And any partner who denied or refused our foreign policy, he followed it after 50 years. Take when Gamal Abdel Nasser decided to join the World Trade Organization in 109,068. The Chinese told us that you are joining an imperialist organization. And they joined it after us by 40 years, and the Russians joined it after us by 50 years. Take the Americans, who were against our recognition of the new regime in China, Mao Zedong, and now China became the largest partner of the United States and the West in foreign trade. So we are ahead of everybody. We never regret our foreign policy, and we are doing very good in our foreign policy. And it depends that we are Arabs, Africans, we are not far from Europe, that we are in the middle of the whole world.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us. And that was all for our coverage of today's President's inspection to the military academy. We'll be updating you during the day of other important developments. Now we'll leave you for the Panorama News coming right after this.